You are standing outside a sealed stone chamber in Alexandria, holding a torch that barely cuts through the dark. Inside that room is the last queen of Egypt. Not a legend, not a seductress, not a myth. A woman who knows that every breath she takes is being measured by the most powerful man in the world. For 7 days you hear her moving inside. Soft footsteps on stone, the faint rustle of linen, sometimes her voice, speaking quietly as if someone else is there. But you know she is alone. History tells you she died peacefully, smiling, a snake hidden in a basket of figs. That story is comforting. It is also almost certainly a lie. What happened inside those walls was not romantic. It was a slow, deliberate psychological execution, and it was far more horrifying than any poison. Cleopatra did not simply choose death because she was heartbroken. She did not die because she could not live without Mark Antony. She died because Rome had already decided how her story would end. In August of 30 BCE, Octavian did not need to kill Cleopatra. He needed to break her first. He needed her alive, humiliated, displayed, reduced to a symbol that would justify a civil war and crown him master of the Roman world. And Cleopatra understood that better than anyone. Her final days were not a tragedy of lost love. They were a battle between two minds, one fighting for absolute control, the other fighting for the last fragment of dignity left to her. This is the story history prefers not to tell. Not how Cleopatra died, but how she was dismantled before she was allowed to die. The fall begins on the first day of August, 30 BCE. The war was already over. Mark Antony lay dying at the base of Cleopatra's tomb. He had been told she was dead. That lie, planted by Octavian's agents, broke the last piece of resistance inside him. He fell on his sword, believing the woman he loved had already chosen death. Cleopatra was not dead. She had locked herself inside the tomb she had built for her own burial, a massive stone structure near the temple of Isis, 2 stories high, sealed like a fortress. Not because she wanted to die there, but because she understood what capture meant. Antony's men begged her to open the doors. She refused. Opening the doors meant Roman soldiers. It meant chains. It meant a slow public destruction that would last far longer than death. Instead, ropes were lowered from the upper opening. Cleopatra and her attendants dragged Antony's bleeding body up the stone wall. His blood streaked the surface as they pulled him inside. He died in her arms, not as a hero, but as a man who had finally understood he had been outplayed. Cleopatra had only minutes to grieve before Octavian arrived. He did not storm the tomb. He did not break the doors. He sent a messenger. Caesar wishes to discuss your future and the future of your children. That sentence was the opening move of a far more sophisticated weapon. Capture without violence while Cleopatra spoke through a narrow gap in the stone. Roman soldiers climbed the outer wall and entered through the upper opening. She reached for a hidden dagger. They were ready. They disarmed her, restrained her, and carried her away. She did not go quietly. You will not take me alive to Rome, she shouted. Kill me now. They did not. Their orders were simple. Keep her alive, no matter what it takes. From that moment, Cleopatra was no longer a queen. She was a living problem Octavian needed to solve. Why Octavian needed her alive? Octavian had won Egypt, but victory was not enough. Rome had just endured a brutal civil war. Romans killing Romans. Blood spilled by citizens against citizens. That kind of victory is dangerous. To rule, Octavian needed a story that would make that violence acceptable, not a civil war, a foreign war. Cleopatra was that story. He would transform her into the corrupt Eastern queen who had poisoned Roman virtue and enslaved Mark Antony with pleasure and gold. He would parade her through the streets of Rome as proof that he had saved the republic from collapse. But Cleopatra knew what a Roman triumph meant. She had seen defeated kings dragged in chains. She had watched them humiliated, mocked, and executed at the end of the parade. She would not be that spectacle. And so the real war began. The chamber of breaking Cleopatra was placed in a second-floor stone room inside the palace. One door, one narrow window. Guards outside day and night. Everything was removed. No knives, no pins, no cords, no jewelry, no glass, no poison. Her hair and clothing were searched every day.